We do not stand still and are developing for you, so we bring to your attention a new voice and a new story.
Emily Harrington's hands shook as she placed her teacup gently on the table, causing the delicate bone china to resonate with an unfamiliar clatter, reflecting her outward calm. Across from her sat her son, whose countenance had morphed into something unfamiliar, replacing softness with harsh lines and love with calculation. For those who appreciate tales of formidable women who won't be exploited, click subscribe, enable notifications, and become a part of our community for daily stories that will motivate, empower, and occasionally satiate your desire for justice. Brace yourself now for this intriguing tale of vengeance and retribution. At 68, Emily had navigated numerous tempests. The demise of her husband 14 months ago, the sale of their ancestral home, and the pervasive loneliness that had inched its way into her marrow like winter's chill. Yet nothing could have braced her for this confrontation. "Mom," Derek said, his voice echoing the practiced patience of an individual explaining something basic to a child. "It's only $120,000. My father would have desired my success. This financial opportunity isn't eternal." I examined my son's face, the same one I had counted fingers and toes on in a hospital room 42 years ago. The same one I had dried tears from countless times. The same one now looked at me as if I were just an obstacle to overcome. "That's almost a quarter of what remains from the house sale, Derek," I said, trying not to let my voice tremble. "After your father's medical expenses, there isn't as much as you might assume." Derek leaned forward, his expensive timepiece gleaming in the afternoon sunlight filtering through my apartment windows. "When did he start wearing watches that cost more than my first car? I wouldn't ask if it wasn't crucial. This investment will triple within 2 years, with interest included. I'll repay you." His smile lacked sincerity. "Think of it as a loan." I had heard those words before. The loan for his initial unsuccessful restaurant venture. In his moment of showmanship with that fancy sports car to dazzle clients, he found himself short on funds, struggling with overdue child support for my grandchildren. Kids he scarcely saw, despite their proximity. Asking about the investment, I stalled, gauging his response. A hint of annoyance flashed before Derek veiled it with excitement. He spoke of a tech startup, a pioneer in its field, creating an app to transform home buying. The founders, he said, were geniuses. I gave a subtle nod. My past as an accountant before retirement filled with similar sales pitches echoing in my mind. Underneath the practiced optimism, I detected a whiff of desperation. Today, Derek needed my decision. Other investors were waiting in line. As always, they were there in such situations, creating an illusion of competition and urgency. "I require some time, Derek. This sum is substantial." His jaw stiffened. "What warrants contemplation? I'm your son, after all." "Yes, you are my son," I mused. "The boy who once handed me dandelions in his tiny fist. The teenager who danced with me in the kitchen upon receiving his first college acceptance letter. The man who held my hand at your father's funeral and vowed to always stand by me." However, something shifted along the way. Something emptied him out and replaced it with a sense of entitlement. "I merely need 24 hours, Derek." He rose abruptly, looming over me. "In light of everything I've done for you, I'm the one who found this apartment for you. I'm the one who helped you declutter. You hired people to assist with my decluttering," I clarified softly. "And you took your father's tools before the estate sale, without consultation." Anger flickered across his face. "So, that's what this is about? You're punishing me over some antiquated tools?" "No, Derek, it's not about that. This isn't about what you think." "So, what then?" "You hoard wealth while I strive to create. What are your plans for it? A lavish retirement home?" He chuckled, but there was no merriment in it. "Or are you planning to be the wealthiest tombstone in the graveyard?" The words struck me like physical impacts. I remained still, watching my son transform into a stranger before my eyes. "You should leave now," I replied, keeping my voice even amidst the turmoil in my chest. "Fine. Contact me when you've considered what truly matters." He picked up his jacket. "Really, one should support family, Mom. Dad knew that." After the door closed, I remained stationary in my living room as the afternoon light gradually darkened into evening shadows. The teacup in front of me had cooled, untouched since Derek's arrival. Outside my window, life persisted. People walking dogs, a young pair pushing a stroller, an old man meticulously caring for potted plants on his balcony opposite the courtyard. My phone pulsed with a text message from Derek, instructing me to prepare something by the next day. This prospect wouldn't delay. I placed the phone aside and sauntered towards the window, gazing at the neighborhood garden beneath where various inhabitants cultivated their individual patches. Included among them was Sophia, my deceased sister's offspring, who had relocated to the same complex 6 months prior in proximity to her physical therapy job and me. In contrast to Derek, who only dropped by when he needed something, Sophia bestowed upon me homegrown vegetables from her garden plot and stayed with me during the trying anniversaries that ensued after Robert's demise. The thought crossed my mind of Sophia maintaining 2 jobs while striving to accrue enough for her nursing degree education. How she looked after her mother, my sister, who had left a chaotic wake in her leisure time. How she never grumbled, even when fatigue was ingrained on every line of her young visage. In the meeting, a chill of clarity formed within me as I observed Derek, discerning his responses. The genuine curiosity he showed when Michael spoke about overcoming a technical hurdle. The contemplative demeanor while Rosa detailed her plans for expanding the preschool scholarship scheme. When Sophia presented a case for a prospective candidate, a young paramedic aspiring to become a physician assistant, Derek posed pertinent questions regarding the applicant's dedication and future aspirations. Following the meeting's end, most people departed, but Derek stayed behind, assisting Margaret and Sophia in restoring my apartment to its customary state. "What did you think?" I queried him once we were finally alone. "More extensive than anticipated," he acknowledged. "You've established a genuine system, not just a checkbook." Indeed, that had always been the aim. Money addresses only a small portion of the issues. Derek slowly nodded. "I believe I would like to take up the position. If it's still available, I will," I stated, feeling a burden depart from me. "Howard will wrap up the paperwork next week." As promised, Derek delved into the foundation's tasks. He participated in recipient gatherings, assessed applications, and even assisted Michael in securing better internship conditions by utilizing his professional connections. Seeing my son employ his abilities for others rather than solely for personal gain gave me a tentative optimism. As November approached December, my condition worsened at a speed faster than my physicians anticipated. The pain grew harder to alleviate, my clear intervals fewer. Sophia effectively assumed residence in my apartment, her nursing expertise ensuring my last days were as comfortable as feasible. In my tougher instances, when pain hindered my thoughts, I occasionally jumbled past and present, addressing Derek by his father's name, querying Sophia about school tasks she'd accomplished years ago. In my more lucid moments, I concentrated on finishing any remaining letters and personal messages. One evening, as the winter night fell prematurely and snow blanketed the courtyard outside my window, I requested Sophia's aid to my desk. There was one final document I had to complete, a letter intended for Derek upon my demise. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" Sophia queried, troubled by my unsteadiness as she positioned me at the desk. "I am certain," I responded, trying to steady my hand as it gripped the pen. "This cannot be delayed. Dear Derek, if you are reading this, I have departed. There are matters I wish for you to understand, perhaps not explicitly stated in person. First, I want you to know that I loved you from the instant of your birth. Through all your victories and missteps, all your perfect moments and deeply imperfect ones. A mother's love is not contingent on actions or accomplishments. It just is. It's crucial for you to comprehend that the challenging decisions I made concerning the foundation and my estate were not driven by retribution, but by optimism, a belief that you would eventually realize, as I did in later life, that our most significant riches are found in giving rather than possessing. The establishment of the Second Chance Foundation offered me a meaning that surpassed anything I had previously envisioned. In your new position with the foundation, I hope you'll encounter the same sense of fulfillment. The allowance will cater to your material needs, but the work itself will enrich your spirit in ways money cannot. Lastly, please understand that during these past weeks, as you become more involved with the foundation, I have witnessed glimpses of the person you are capable of becoming. Thoughtful, purposeful, generous. That personal evolution is my true legacy, of greater value than any financial inheritance could be. The journey you're embarking on now isn't simple. There will be days when old habits and patterns tempt you. On those specific days, understand that second chances aren't solely meant for the recipients of the foundation, but rather extend to everyone ready to transcend their constraints. I am proud of your strides. Maintain this journey with unending love, Mom. I affixed the letter, my hands quivering not just due to physical feebleness, but also with emotion, for Sophia to give to Derek upon my departure. She acknowledged, placing it securely in her bag. I assure you, he will receive it. 3 days hence, on a peaceful Sunday morning, the members of the foundation assembled in my apartment. aware that this might be our last meeting. Now, bound to my bed, supported by pillows to view everyone gathered in a semicircle around me, Derek sat beside Sophia, the two having forged an uncertain alliance through their mutual care for me. Rosa displayed her most radiant preschool artworks on my walls. Michael set up a mechanism enabling me to adjust my bed's position with minimal effort. James, still regaining his composure, had written a poem he read in the deep-toned voice of his former mentor. Margaret, ever pragmatic, brought the concluding documents, ensuring the foundation's longevity. "Everything is set," she affirmed following everyone's reports. "The Second Chance Fund will carry on precisely as you imagined." "Thank you," I replied, my voice frailer than desired. "All of you for turning this vision into reality." "We should let you rest," Sophia advised, observing my exhaustion. "Not yet," I countered. "There's something I wish to share while you are all present." The room fell silent, faces looking towards me in anticipation. When I established the foundation, I believed I was granting second chances. However, the reality is, each one of you has given me a second chance as well. I paused, gathering my resolve. After Robert passed away, I was merely existing, not living, moving without purpose. Each of your dreams, resilience, and progress. You've rekindled my faith in potential once more. A sheen of tears graced multiple faces, yet I persevered, resolved to complete my message. The foundation must never forget its fundamental principle. Monetary aid alone isn't sufficient. Money devoid of guidance, devoid of a connection, devoid of sincere concern for the individual as a whole, it's simply currency being passed from hand to hand. It is the blend of resources and relationships that changes lives. Let this never be forgotten. Derek solemnly nodded in agreement. "We won't, Mom," he pledged. Before my energy waned entirely, I had one final declaration. There remains another recipient yet unannounced. Someone who has recently exemplified the values the Foundation cherishes. "Derek," my son looked taken aback. "Yes, the advisory board has taken notice of your recent engagement and endeavors. A consensus was reached to establish a small business development fund under your management, aimed at supporting entrepreneurs often overlooked by conventional financing." This news left Derek speechless with surprise before his feelings took over. He merely said, "Thank you," his voice hoarse. He promised to make the best use of this opportunity. After everyone departed except Sophia, who was on night duty, Derek found himself drifting between wakefulness and unconsciousness. In his dreams, Robert was by his side, guiding him through gardens more vibrant than any earthly scenery. Their hands connected warmly. "You've succeeded, Em," Robert said in his dream. "You've figured out a way to make it significant." This revelation confirmed to Derek that the end of his time here was near. The persistent pain he had been experiencing subsided, replaced by an overarching tranquility. He felt he had accomplished his purpose on Earth. The foundation was stable, Sophia was thriving, and Derek, his complex and imperfect son, was finding his way to becoming the man he was capable of being. At the break of Monday morning, Sophia dozed in the chair by my bed. I observed as the initial golden light brushed against the trees outside my window, highlighting the remaining autumn leaves stubbornly clinging to their branches. "Sophia," I whispered softly, not to awaken her abruptly. She awoke instantly, her medical training overpowering exhaustion. "I'm here, Aunt Emily. What do you need?" I responded, "Nothing, dear. I merely wish to see your face one more time." Her facial expression changed, understanding dawning. She held my hand, her fingers simultaneously checking my pulse and trying to offer a comforting smile. "I'm right here. I won't depart." I acknowledged, "I know." I returned her squeeze with the last bit of strength I had. "Find joy, Sophia. You deserve it." The room seemed to brighten then, not only the winter sunrise, but a warmer, more encompassing light. I felt lighter, the confines of my deteriorating body becoming less apparent. "Should I summon the others?" Sophia inquired, her professional demeanor faltering slightly. "There's no rush," I whispered weakly. "Stay a while longer with me." So she complied, clutching my hand as I journeyed towards what lay beyond life. My final conscious thought was not one of remorse or dread, but rather profound appreciation for the second chances, those I'd extended and those I'd received. As time waned, I knew instinctively that it's not what we amass, but what we construct together that endures. That night, I slept soundly, a rarity in recent months, awakening to light filtering through my drapes and a renewed sense of purpose, absent since Robert's passing. Post a modest meal, I retrieved the accordion folder filled with all our financial records, spreading them out on the dining table. Robert had managed our investments, but during the year following his demise, I'd acquired knowledge. I might not be a financial mastermind, yet I was meticulous and cautious, traits that proved beneficial in my accounting profession. The sale of our family home yielded $520,000 after settling the remaining mortgage. The insurance payout added $300,000 to Robert's life savings, but expenses such as financial bills and the move to the senior living apartment complex had cost around $200,000 and $15,000 respectively, leaving approximately $600,000. While this sum provided a comfortable retirement fund, it wasn't the limitless resource Derek seemed to envision. I then searched for Derek's startup online, but found only a basic website with stock photos and vague claims about disrupting the real estate market. The site had been established 3 weeks earlier. My phone rang, displaying my longtime friend Margaret's name. Margaret and I had worked together at the accounting firm for 30 years and grown even closer since Robert's death. "How did things go with Derek yesterday?" she asked following our customary greetings. "About as well as one could expect," I replied, sighing. "He requested $120,000 for a business opportunity. Are you suggesting it's a certainty? Assured earnings? A once-in-a-century chance?" I chuckled despite myself. "You omitted ground floor and visionary." "Emily," Margaret's tone shifted gravely. "Recall the Collins account? The son who depleted his mother's retirement fund continuously." Yes, I recalled. Mrs. Collins had approached our firm nearly penniless at 75, having given away all her savings to a son who perpetually sought additional loans to rectify his financial situation. "What precisely are you inquiring about, Margaret? Has Derek repaid any of the previous loans?" she asked softly. We both knew the response. The $30,000 for his initial restaurant, the $20,000 when he was unemployed, and the $15,000 for his daughter's private school fees that I later discovered had been used for a vacation with his girlfriend at the time. None of these have been repaid. "I've already decided to refuse," I told her. "But now I'm contemplating more." "What do you imply?" "I'm pondering what Robert would truly desire me to do with our funds." I paused. "And I'm considering Sophia." 19-year-old niece Sophia had tragically lost her father due to a heart attack. The following year, her mother Jane, diagnosed with MS, left Sophia bearing the responsibility of caring for and financially supporting them both. Despite these hardships, Sophia continued to embody a positive and diligent spirit. She had expressed intentions of saving for nursing school. My conversation with Margaret ensued. "She'd excel as a nurse, Margaret. You should witness her interaction with patients at the rehabilitation center." Margaret then inquired, "So you plan on assisting Sophia rather than Derek?" I replied, "Not just Sophia. I have a broader concept. Last night, an idea kept me awake. What if I established something akin to a small foundation to aid individuals truly deserving of opportunity?" My mother remained silent for a moment, aware that Derek wouldn't take this positively. After the call ended, I started exploring legal methods to structure my concept on my computer. By midday, I arranged a meeting with Robert's previous lawyer for the next day. At 12:30, my doorbell rang. Upon opening, it was Sophia. With her curly hair in a messy ponytail, she carried a small container. "I made too much soup," she said, her smile illuminating her weary eyes. "Thought you might enjoy lunch?" This was our custom, her overcooking food as a pretense for checking on me. We were both aware it wasn't an accident, but the charade maintained my self-respect and provided her reason to visit. "Couldn't be more timely," I responded, inviting her in. I was about to rest. During our meal, I observed my niece. At 28, she should have been concentrating on establishing her own life, not bearing responsibilities that would overwhelm many older than her. "How is your mother faring?" I inquired. "She has good days and bad," Sophia answered. "The new medicine helps with the exhaustion, but the copays are draining us." She swiftly added, "But we're coping, we're managing." "Worry not. She constantly conceals her struggles and doesn't wish to be a burden." "How's the accumulation for nursing school progressing?" Her smile wavered slightly. "Delayed more than I desired, but I'll manage eventually." "What if you didn't have to wait?" I inquired cautiously. Sophia raised her gaze from her soup, perplexity creeping across her face. "Explain yourself." "I've been contemplating using a portion of my savings to establish an educational fund for those who deserve an opportunity but require financial aid." "That sounds fantastic, Aunt Emily. You've always been so generous. Would you consider this?" If it were feasible, Sophia set down her spoon, scrutinizing my face. "Is this genuine?" "Absolutely genuine. You'd be my first investment." "I can't accept that," she said promptly. "That's your retirement funds." "Sophia, what do you believe retirement is for?" "To sit alone counting my money." I extended my hand across the table to grasp hers. Robert and I have always aimed to assist individuals within our community. However, we ran out of time together. But concerning Derek, isn't that necessary? I gave her a comforting squeeze. Derek will manage well. He has a knack for navigating difficult situations. Following Sophia's departure, considering my proposal, I spent the afternoon compiling potential investment prospects. This included Mr. Abernathy's grandson, a gifted young man who served as our building's maintenance supervisor while pursuing an engineering degree piecemeal. Additionally, Rosa Martinez, a single mother who managed our community center's childcare program and aspired to open her own bilingual preschool. Exactly at 5 p.m., my doorbell echoed again. Derek was standing there, dressed in what appeared to be his business meeting attire, a crisp blue shirt, no tie, an expensive blazer. He'd even had a haircut since the previous day. "Hello, Mom," he greeted, leaning for a kiss on my cheek. His cologne was overpowering, obscuring more than it accentuated. I delivered dinner. He displayed a bag from a luxury restaurant nearby. I invited him in, observing his gaze sweeping over my apartment as if appraising its worth. Had he always done this, or was it a new observation on my part? "So," he began as he unpacked food I hadn't requested, "have you pondered our conversation?" "I have," I responded, settling at the dining table without touching the open containers. "I've made up my mind." Derek sat opposite me, his visage a calculated facade of filial care. "Excellent. I was confident you'd reach this conclusion. I've already communicated with the developers, and they're reserving a place for us in the investment round. I won't be providing you the funds, Derek." The mask faltered briefly, revealing a flash of anger that quickly dissipated into perplexity. "What? Why not?" "Because you've decided to utilize the money differently, establishing a foundation aimed at assisting individuals within the community, primarily young people needing educational or business startup assistance." This concept left Derek bewildered, as if I had been speaking in a foreign language. "Intrigued about your idea?" "Indeed, I've consulted with an attorney regarding its proper formation." "This is absurd," declared Derek, bursting into laughter that held undertones of frostiness. "You're no Andrew Carnegie. You're a retired accountant with a limited retirement fund." "My funds, my choice," I replied evenly. "And if you object to me using it to aid others rather than you?" His tone escalated. "Your own child? They are not strangers. They are part of your family." Derek's features hardened. "But Sophia, your niece, what does she have to do with this endeavor?" Derek's countenance grew stormy. "She will be the initial recipient, and she's returning to nursing school. This situation seems connected to your father, doesn't it?" Derek moved around my tiny living room, pacing thoughtfully. He thought I was punishing him because he wasn't present enough when our father was ill. However, this isn't about punishment, Derek. It's about legacy, using what Robert and I created together to make a substantial impact. "You question whether you do make a significant difference," he asserted. "My business could provide jobs for many if it thrives. If you have such strong faith in your business, there are small business loans and investors," he argued. "I've tried that option before. They ask for business plans, projections, collateral. You're my mother. Aren't you supposed to believe in me without conditions?" he continued. I looked at you, my son, intently. The arrogant stance of his shoulders, the quick-tempered reaction when denied, the assumption that my assets were his by default. How could I have let him grow up this way? "I do believe in you unconditionally, Derek," I replied softly. "However, this doesn't imply unrestricted monetary aid. In fact, I've seen no proof that past assistance was utilized prudently. So, here we are. You're favoring Sophia and some others over your own son. I am investing in individuals who have shown responsibility, gratitude, and ambition." Derek picked up his coat. "You'll regret this. When my business succeeds without your help, don't expect a penny of the earnings." "I'm not interested in profits, Derek. I merely wanted my son to visit me occasionally without asking for money." He headed towards the door, then turned back. "Has the foundation got a name yet?" "Yes," I replied, the words flowing as they left my mouth. "The Second Chance Foundation." Derek's laughter was scornful. "And do I get a second chance? That would be up to you, wouldn't it?" After he slammed the door shut, I found myself in the quiet of my apartment. The food Derek had brought remained untouched on the table, gradually cooling down. In the evening, the community was enveloped, as lights sparked up in windows around the courtyard. I hadn't anticipated feelings of guilt, sadness, or confusion. Instead, an unusual tranquility washed over me, as if I had discarded a weighty burden I didn't realize I carried for years. For the first time since Robert passed away, I sensed that I was upholding a vow we had made to one another long ago to use our lives to effect change. My phone buzzed with an incoming message from Sophia. I pondered your proposal. If you're genuine, I would be privileged to agree. Yet, on the condition it's a loan that I will repay. I smiled as I composed my response. This isn't a loan, it's an investment. And in exchange, all I ask is that, someday when you can, you aid someone else in the same manner. The following 3 weeks transpired swiftly, filled with activity, and leaving me with limited time to ponder Derek's absence. Not because he was trying to reach out to me, my phone stayed conspicuously quiet, except for one text inquiring if I had regained my composure yet. I chose not to reply. Robert's lawyer, Howard Levinson, expressed interest in my foundation idea, but suggested a more streamlined design than initially envisioned. He remarked that at this scale, the administrative burden of a formal foundation wasn't necessary. A donor-advised fund could achieve the same objectives with significantly less documentation and costs. Thus, the Second Chance Fund was established, kick-started with an initial deposit of $150,000, the $120,000 Derek demanded, along with an extra $30,000 I had been saving for his children's college funds. These funds would now be accessible to my grandchildren directly upon reaching college age, without going through their father's hands. On a sunny Tuesday morning, I invited Sophia over for coffee at the small cafe opposite our apartment complex. She entered, showing a mix of intrigue and apprehension, adjusting her uniform as she faced me. "Are we in trouble?" she quipped, but I noticed worry hidden beneath her grin. She was given an envelope to peruse on the table. To the contrary, it held good news. Her enrollment into the university's nursing program was confirmed, along with full payment of tuition for the initial year and a monthly allowance for textbooks and supplies. "Aunt Emily," Sophia's voice trembled, "this is excessive." "It's spot on," I replied determinedly. "The fund will cater to your costs for the nursing program's 3-year duration, given you keep your grades up. The stipend enables a reduction in work hours while still helping your mother." Sophia's tears flowed as she struggled to find words. I don't know what to say. Over the ensuing days, I held comparable conversations with my selected recipients. Michael Abernathy, the grandson of the maintenance supervisor, would receive financing to complete his engineering degree at full-time pace instead of one class per semester he could afford. Rosa Martinez would obtain startup capital and business guidance for her bilingual preschool, and James Wilson, the retired high school science teacher living on my floor, would secure aid for the after-school robotics program he administered for underprivileged children. Each recipient exhibited a blend of astonishment, gratitude, and resolve that validated my choices. Each also consented to my single requirement. They would meet with me frequently to discuss their progress and hurdles. This wasn't merely about money, it was about fostering a network of mutual aid and responsibility. News of my activities spread rapidly within our apartment community, earning me some newly acquired respect from neighbors. However, a few, primarily wealthier residents, viewed me with a hint of suspicion, as though I breached an unwritten code of conduct for retired widows regarding their funds. Margaret frequently contacted me, displaying both support and worry. During one of our chats, she inquired about Derek. I hadn't heard from him personally, but his wife Vanessa reached out to me the day prior. Apparently, he informed her that I had experienced some sort of breakdown and was giving away my money to strangers. Margaret scoffed at this. So, what did Vanessa say? She seemed more intrigued than worried, asking numerous questions about the fund. It appeared she was more understanding of my actions than Derek would prefer. This wasn't unexpected. To me, Vanessa always came across as the more level-headed of the two. I hadn't shared everything with Margaret yet. Vanessa subtly pointed out that Derek's business associates withdrew following a thorough investigation, unclear of its significance. Now, Derek is frantically trying to save the venture by withdrawing funds from their shared savings without consulting him. A small assembly took place in the community room of our apartment building complex. 1 month after the fund's establishment, present were all the fund recipients, Margaret, and several neighbors intrigued by the project. I had prepared a straightforward summary detailing the fund's objectives and ongoing accomplishments. Michael's academic performance has significantly improved as he can now concentrate on his studies. Rosa found a location for her preschool and is streamlining the licensing process with assistance from a retired business administrator who generously offered advice after hearing about the fund. James's robotics program expanded due to the new equipment we bought. Lastly, Sophia is thriving. At the pinnacle of her nursing group, she was chosen for an esteemed clinical rotation. More significantly, There was a renewed radiance in her eyes. She carried herself with newfound confidence, smiled more frequently, and walked with a determined stride that had been absent earlier. As I prepared for my presentation, the community room door creaked open. Derek stood there, seeming out of sync in his pricey suit. Alongside him was Vanessa, who offered me an apologetic smile. "Mom," Derek said coldly, "Vanessa felt it necessary for me to witness your project." I merely nodded, maintaining a neutral expression. "Feel free to stay for the presentation." "We will," Vanessa responded swiftly before Derek could utter another word. During my presentation, I constantly sensed Derek in the back row, his arms folded, his facial expression shifting between skepticism and discomfort, particularly when each participant stood to share their objectives and accomplishments. When Sophia's turn came, she looked straight at Derek as she spoke. "Some individuals never receive a second opportunity. I vow not to squander mine." There was no hostility in her tone, merely unyielding resolve. Following the conclusion of the formal presentation, and as people began mingling, appreciating the refreshments I had arranged, Derek approached me. "Quite the performance you've staged," he commented, his voice barely audible for my ears alone. "Remarkable how you've assumed the role of the neighborhood hero." "This isn't what it appears to be," I retorted calmly. "Isn't it? Notice them all, doting on you." He indicated where several neighbors were animatedly conversing with the beneficiaries. "Saint Emily, the renowned philanthropist. Had you truly listened, you would have realized that this isn't about me in the least." Derek's face stiffened. "No, it's about avenging me, ensuring everyone knows you opted for them over your own son." "I haven't mentioned you to anyone," I said. "This has nothing to do with you, correct?" His laugh was tainted with bitterness. "Not my concern. Merely coincidental that you're returning the exact sum I requested for loaning." Before responding, Vanessa joined him, linking her arm with his. "The presentation was superb, Emily. So impressed by your endeavors." Derek cast a frosty glance at his wife. "Thank you, Vanessa," I replied. "Glad you both could attend." "Indeed, we should depart now," Derek stated abruptly. "Busy day ahead tomorrow." As they exited, Vanessa murmured to Derek, causing him to halt. Upon returning, he reluctantly faced me again. "Best of luck with your foundation, mother." The words were accurate, but the tone signaled no reconciliation. A boundary was being set. After their departure, Margaret stood by my side. Indeed, it was chilly. Yes, I concur, yet inevitable. As the gathering concluded, I found myself seated beside Sophia, observing as James Wilson exhibited a miniature robot to a cluster of captivated kids who had assembled from the playground. "Doesn't Derek dislike this, though?" Sophia whispered. "He simply doesn't grasp it," I countered. "There's a distinction." "Will he ever?" I pondered over my son, the hardened entitlement accumulated over years, the notion that family duty traveled unidirectionally. "I can't say," I conceded, "but I've come to accept that's no longer my burden. The duty lies in me to employ my resources prudently." Sophia gripped my hand. "I believe Uncle Robert would be immensely proud of you at this moment." Glancing around the room, I saw lives being impacted by the fund, a result of my courage to reroute the course of my generosity. The influence of Uncle Robert was felt more strongly since the day he passed away. "You're accomplishing it, Em," I seemed to hear him say. "You're constructing something enduring." For the first time, I let myself experience not just the serenity from making a good choice, but the happiness of it. The Second Chance Fund wasn't just altering the lives of the recipients, it was transforming mine. I was no longer surviving in the wake of grief. I was creating, connecting, contributing. Derek may never comprehend or forgive me for what he saw as a betrayal. In that community room, I observed fresh opportunities unfolding, and I felt deeply assured that I could endure the price tag associated with it. As summer gave way to autumn and leaves transformed, so did the lives of my Second Chance beneficiaries. Rosa Martinez expanded her bilingual preschool, facing a waiting list twice as long as its capacity. Michael Abernathy received an elite internship for the next summer, due to engineering professors' connections. James Wilson's robotics team qualified for a regional competition, with 3 of his students receiving scholarship offers from technical colleges. As for Sophia, she surpassed even my highest expectations. She was chosen for a leadership role in her nursing program and designed a specialized treatment plan for MS patients based on her personal experience caring for her mother. This protocol is now being piloted at the university hospital. Mentoring these motivated individuals rekindled within me a sense of purpose that had been absent since my retirement. Our regular progress meetings morphed into dinner conversations, delving into matters beyond the practical, encompassing life's bigger questions about purpose, ethics, and legacy. As more neighbors joined us, sharing their unique expertise and experiences, what started as a financial intervention transformed into a thriving network of mutual support. Derek remained out of my life's picture, but through intermittent chats with Vanessa, I became aware that his company, Venture, had faced total collapse. The talented individuals he had partnered with apparently fled with the meager funds they'd garnered from investors. Now, Derek was employed at a real estate firm belonging to an old colleague, maintaining his material lifestyle due to Vanessa's consistent income as a hospital administrator. Her wages provided him with a modicum of pride and security despite the collapse of his business. After attending one of our foundation dinners, my phone rang. It was Vanessa with a strained voice. She apologized for the unexpected call, but shared her concerns about Derek. He had lost his job last week and hadn't told her until today, when she found him drinking at 2 in the afternoon. However, she wasn't calling about that. Instead, she mentioned that Derek has been making accusations against you about the foundation, suggesting that if he had received the money, things would have turned out differently. I expressed my dismay, not surprised, but still disappointed. In your opinion, would giving him the money have changed his situation, perhaps even worsened it? After a moment of silence, she added that Derek is considering taking legal action against the foundation, claiming you're not mentally competent and are being exploited by strangers. This remark filled me with cold fury. Is that truly his belief? I'm unsure if he's genuine or venting anger, but I felt it necessary to inform you. Following our call, I spent time pondering in my growing dim apartment about Derek's expected response. When refused what he sought, his habit wasn't self-examination or extra effort. Instead, it was demolishing others' work. The following morning, I phoned Howard Levinson and shared the predicament. He reassured me that the fund was legally robust, any challenge being baseless. Nonetheless, he advised safeguarding my mental capacity with a doctor's assessment as a preventive step. It's unlikely, Howard said. Derek would be humiliating himself in court. I expressed gratitude and ended the call, only to hear my phone ring again moments later. It was my physician's office. Mrs. Harrington, Dr. Patel requests you to visit promptly to discuss your test findings. 3 weeks ago, I underwent some regular blood tests and chest x-rays due to a lingering cold, and a rattle in my lungs that Dr. Patel detected. Hearing urgency in the receptionist's voice sent a shiver down my spine unrelated to my condition. 2 hours later, I found myself in Dr. Patel's office, where she shared the test results. Lung cancer, stage 3. The continuous cough, the exhaustion I thought was age-related or due to grief, and the mysterious weight loss were all symptoms I downplayed or justified. Time is of the essence, Dr. Patel said, her sympathetic gaze fixed on me. With intensive treatment, there's a glimmer of hope. I listened, taking in the information as if it concerned someone else's diagnosis, wondering about the prognosis. The 5-year survival rate is approximately 30%, she stated, a trait of her honesty I have long admired. Without treatment, survival might range from 6 to 12 months. These words reverberated within me as I exited her office, clutching a folder filled with oncologist contacts and referrals. In the parking lot, I found myself seated in my car, observing passers-by, a young mother with a toddler, an elderly couple hand in hand, a middle-aged man engrossed in his phone, each of them oblivious that my world had just been turned upside down. My journey home was hazy, scarcely acknowledging the familiar surroundings. Upon reaching my apartment, I placed the folder on my dining table and stood gazing out the window at the courtyard below. There, Sophia was assisting an elderly resident with groceries, sharing a laugh at the woman's joke. Initially, thoughts of myself didn't cross my mind, but rather the recipients of my foundation, the pledged commitments, and the futures I had vowed to help construct. If I were to pass away before completing my plans, what would become of them? My next thought turned to Derek. How might he respond to this information? Would it soften his heart, or would he view it as a chance to seize more of what he believed was rightfully his inheritance? In the afternoon, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Howard Levinson, arranging an immediate meeting to revise my will and the management structure of the foundation. The second was to Margaret, inviting her over that evening. Upon arriving, Margaret carried a bottle of wine and her customary brisk vigor, which swiftly dissipated upon seeing my face. "What's wrong?" she inquired, setting down the wine without opening it. I informed her about my diagnosis, prognosis, worries about the foundation, and Derek. She listened without interruption, her eyes filling with tears she refused to shed. "So," she said once I finished, "what's the plan?" I smiled involuntarily. That's why I contacted Margaret first. No drama, no hollow words. Let's focus. Essential actions lay ahead, beginning with securing legal protections for the foundation. That had to come first. Tomorrow, I would meet with Howard to begin the process. But that was only the start. The foundation's entire schedule needed to accelerate. What was meant to unfold over years now had to happen within months. Margaret listened carefully, then gave a small nod. What else? I paused. Treatment? Her eyes fixed on mine, sharp and unwavering. Emily Harrington, don't even consider skipping it. I'm not skipping, I said quickly. I'm being selective. It's about quality, not just quantity. She leaned across the table, reaching for my hand and gripping it tightly. Listen to me. Those children need you. Not just your money. They need you. Your knowledge, your guidance, your humor. They're only just beginning. You can't leave them too soon. I held her hand in return, a small smile tugging at the edge of my mouth. All right, bossy. I'll talk to the specialists. She softened. And Derek, will you tell him? The question struck something deep in me. It had been pressing on my chest since the moment I stepped out of Dr. Patel's office. A part of me yearned to shield Derek from suffering, to prevent him witnessing another parent's prolonged demise. Yet, another aspect. The pragmatic accountant who had analyzed human nature for decades anticipated his reaction. Not yet, I decided. Let me sort things out first. The ensuing weeks were a whirlwind of consultations with oncologists, radiologists, lawyers, and financial advisors. I initiated treatment simultaneously. While reorganizing the foundation to maintain its longevity, Leonard consented to administer the foundation upon my death, with Sophia and 2 long-term neighbors overseeing fund distribution. My will no longer granted Derek any assets not already assigned for his children's education. It was a tough call that left me tossing and turning. But every time I hesitated, I recalled his threats to question my competence, his readiness to undermine the foundation out of spite. During the course of my therapy, accompanied by the anticipated adverse effects such as tiredness and sickness, I relied more extensively on the group I'd cultivated. Sophia would regularly check in on me, frequently bringing along her mother Jane who, despite dealing with MS, was determined to cook nutritious meals to bolster my energy levels. The children of Rose's preschool made me cheerful cards. Michael utilized his engineering expertise to customize my apartment with minor adjustments that helped make my increasingly challenging days more bearable. Word of my illness circulated within the apartment complex. Strangers who barely knew me offered rides to appointments, brought books and magazines, or simply stayed with me when the solitude threatened to become overwhelming. By offering support to others, I inadvertently established a protective barrier for myself. As I was coming home from a demanding chemotherapy session 3 months into my treatment, I encountered Derek at my apartment entrance. For a brief instant, our gazes locked, me with my headscarf concealing my newly bald scalp, him displaying deep-set eyes and a haggard aspect I hadn't seen before. Vanessa informed me, he gruffly stated. Why didn't you reach out to me? I unlocked the door, drained by confrontation. Enter if you wish to converse. I must rest. He accompanied me indoors, visibly startled as I eased myself onto the sofa, my body feeling alien after months of treatment. How serious is it? He inquired, still standing. Stage 3 when they discovered it. The therapy is difficult, but the doctors are tentatively hopeful. Derek raked his fingers through his hair, a noticeable sprinkling of gray now adorning his temples. And you believed I should not be informed? I was forced to learn from Vanessa, who got the information from one of her hospital associates. I had planned to inform you, I said, which wasn't entirely untrue, once I'd progressed through the initial treatment stages. His chuckle was sharp, as if he was about to disclose your grand foundation without prior notice to our entire neighborhood. Despite seeing me in this state, his initial response was bitter. A brief wave of fatigue unrelated to cancer washed over me. Derek, I said wearily, I'm too drained for this discussion. If you came to assist, I appreciate it. If you came to debate, save it for another day. No emotion flashed on his face, maybe regret or acknowledgement of his small-mindedness in the face of my illness. He settled into the chair opposite me. What can I do? He asked gently. Nothing at the moment. Margaret is helping me adjust. Derek nodded, visibly uncomfortable with being dismissed but unwilling to persist. I'll visit you tomorrow, he said before leaving. Afterward, I pondered the tentative truce we had established. Was it truly concern that prompted him to visit, or was Vanessa the one who encouraged him? Beneath this lay a more disquieting query. Was his presence due to the fear of being excluded from your will if he didn't attempt reconciliation? As I mulled over these thoughts, Margaret arrived with soup and renewed worry. She inquired about Derek, noticing the two water glasses on the coffee table. He was aware of my cancer, she noted. And how did that conversation unfold? It went roughly as one would anticipate. He was furious that I hadn't informed him sooner. Later, he asked what he could do to assist. May I allow him? I pondered the question. I am yet undecided. His intentions remain unclear, even to himself, I suspect. Over the ensuing weeks, Derek did indeed make frequent visits to check on me. At times, he brought groceries or picked up prescriptions. On other occasions, he merely sat uncomfortably in my living room, engaging in stiff discussions about the weather or news topics of little consequence. He never disclosed his foundation's details, nor his financial woes, nor did I inquire. More frequently, Vanessa visited, her expertise as a hospital administrator proving invaluable on my challenging days. It was Vanessa who initially proposed arranging a community fundraiser for the foundation, suggesting it during one of her visits. She believed it would highlight your good work, garner extra support, and provide an opportunity to celebrate the recipient's progress. The idea resonated, prompting Vanessa, Margaret, and Sophia to delve into planning. I looked on with a blend of pride and sadness as they collaborated, understanding that these bonds were likely to endure beyond me. As the fundraiser date neared, my health showed an unexpected improvement. The recent scans revealed substantial tumor reduction, and my doctors spoke more optimistically about the possibility of remission. For the first instance, I dared to entertain optimism that I might possess more time than I initially apprehensive about. The day of the fundraiser emerged bright and crisp. The community center was adorned with twinkling lights, flowers, and photo displays showcasing the foundation's recipients' accomplishments. Local businesses had contributed refreshments and items for a silent auction. A small stage was erected for speeches and presentations. I arrived early with Sophia, who had been my regular partner during public engagements. She guided me to a seat in the front row, ensuring I was at ease before she joined the other organizers. Attendees started streaming in. Neighbors, friends, some of Margaret's old colleagues from the accounting firm. The mayor made a brief visit, attracted by the favorable news coverage of a community project assisting local students and entrepreneurs. A journalist from the local paper moved about, capturing photos and interviewing foundation recipients. Over the course of events, I observed with contented tranquility. Legacy, in this instance, manifested itself as tangible transformation unfolding instantaneously. Unlike a name etched upon a monument or a wealth amassed and then reluctantly dispensed posthumously, it was the real-time impact that defined it. Derek and Vanessa entered fashionably tardily. He donned a suit seemingly fresh off the rack. She exuded elegance in a humble blue dress. They navigated through the crowd, pausing for brief conversations with fellow guests. I mused over Derek's calculated smile, the one he typically reserved for professional networking functions, pondering whether his presence here was genuine or merely to uphold appearances. The official proceedings commenced once Margaret presented the foundation and its objectives. Gradually, the beneficiaries stepped onto the stage to recount their tales of transformation and achievement. Rosa detailed how her preschool had already expanded into a second classroom. Michael elaborated on the patent he was developing based on his engineering studies. James boasted that every student from his robotics program, about to graduate, had secured college placements or job opportunities in technical areas. As Sophia stepped forward, the room grew silent. She radiated a captivating presence and had cultivated a quiet self-assurance during her time there. Beginning, she said, I was trapped in a vicious cycle of work, and more work with no prospect for advancement. The dream of nursing seemed further away than ever. She paused, looking at me pointedly. Yet someone saw potential in me and didn't merely provide funds, but also invested in my future. They declared, I recognize your potential and am prepared to support it. I could see Derek squirm in his seat while Vanessa placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Sophia continued, this belief has transformed everything, not only for myself but also for the individuals I'll attend to as a caregiver, the associates I'll collaborate with, and eventually the people I'll aid like Emily did for me. The applause echoed sincerely as Sophia descended, pausing to hug me, murmuring, Aunt Emily, we succeeded. We truly did. After the formal speeches, the gathering shifted towards mingling and a silent auction. I stayed put, saving my strength, accepting congratulations from numerous well-wishers. Derek eventually joined, accompanied by Vanessa. His face remained impassive. Quite an accomplishment, Mother, he said, keeping his voice even. Everyone is quite impressed. Thank you for coming, I replied, matching his tact. It's significant to have family present. Vanessa gave my hand a squeeze. What an exceptional event, Emily. You should be proud. Before Derek could speak further, a disturbance near the refreshments attracted everyone's gaze. James Wilson lay on the floor as a crowd gathered, expressing worry. Someone shouted, "He's having a heart attack!" Quickly, Sophia appeared, her nursing instincts kicking in. "Make way, please. Someone call an ambulance," she commanded. The room fell silent as we watched Sophia perform CPR with a calm precision. Moments later, the paramedics arrived. She updated them on James's status and provided specific medical details, staying by his side until he was securely placed on a stretcher. As they moved James towards the hospital, Sophia collected her purse. "I'm accompanying him to the hospital," she stated, maintaining a steady voice despite the evident adrenaline coursing through her. "Rosa, could you stay with Aunt Emily?" Rosa agreed promptly. I observed my niece departing with the paramedics, her strides resolute, her demeanor composed even amidst the crisis. This was who she transformed into. Not merely a student, but a healthcare specialist. Someone quick to respond to crises instead of avoiding them. The celebration proceeded in a muted manner, the thrill of James's emergency casting a gloom over the festivities. I was on the verge of leaving early when a wave of dizziness hit me, accompanied by a severe chest pain that robbed me of breath. Emily, Rosa's worried expression filled my vision. "What's wrong?" I tried to speak but couldn't manage words. The room began tilting and darkening around the edges. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was Derek's face, devoid of all facade, displaying raw fear as he raced towards me. I came to amidst the consistent beep of hospital machines and the familiar scent of antiseptic that had become commonplace over the past few months. Sunlight trickled through partially closed blinds, casting patterns on the institutional green walls. For a fleeting moment, I couldn't recall how I ended up here. She's conscious now. I overheard Margaret speak, accompanied by the chair dragging across the floor. A nurse entered my line of sight, attending to me with practiced ease. "Welcome back, Mrs. Harrington," she said. "You alarmed everyone quite a bit." Recollections surfaced gradually, starting with the critical event, James falling, the abrupt chest pain. I attempted to speak, but my throat was parched and sore. The nurse provided me water through a straw. "Take it easy. The doctor will soon clarify everything," she advised. As the nurse departed, Margaret's face emerged, displaying relief tempered with lingering concern. "At the fundraiser, you had collapsed. They suspect it was due to a mix of exhaustion and an adverse reaction to your latest treatment. You were unconscious for nearly 20 hours. James," I murmured weakly. "He's steady. A triple bypass surgery is planned for tomorrow." Margaret comforted me with a squeeze of my hand. "Sophia has been checking on him during her visits to you. She hasn't slept in 2 days. She should rest," I suggested, feeling more robust post-water. "Too much patience isn't always good." Margaret smiled, acknowledging her efforts. "I've attempted, but she's obstinate. Seems familiar." A motion at the door caught my gaze. Derek was there, looking exhaustion itself. His attire was crumpled, his hair unkempt, his eyes red. "You're awake then," he stated curtly. Margaret departed to inform Sophia. As she walked past him, she warned, "Don't exhaust her." Following Margaret's departure, Derek hesitated at the bedside, seeming unsure of his reception. He eventually took the vacated chair. "You gave us quite a scare, Mom," he said emotionally. "They were uncertain about her duration here. You've been here since they admitted you. Vanessa left to shower and change. She'll return soon." We sat in quiet contemplation for a moment, the monitors beeping providing the only background noise. For the first time in months, possibly years, I gazed upon my son without the lens of discontent or anger. He seemed older, weathered by circumstances I comprehended only fragments of. I started to speak, Derek, uncertain of what to express, yet compelled to break down our barrier. "Don't," he interrupted. "Not now. Just concentrate on recovering." A tall woman with prematurely gray hair and compassionate eyes arrived then, a doctor. She informed me that although I hadn't suffered a heart attack, as initially suspected, the cancer had advanced more rapidly than previous scans suggested. The chemotherapy was no longer controlling it effectively. "We need to discuss your choices, Mrs. Harrington," she said softly, "but that can be postponed until you're feeling more robust." Following her departure, Derek and I remained in a heavy silence, the unvoiced prediction of my health looming between us. "Mom," Derek eventually uttered, his voice tense, "I have something to share." I remained quiet, observing a multitude of feelings flicker across his visage. I've been absent, yet present. He grappled with finding the appropriate words. Upon Dad's passing, a part of me shattered witnessing him endure so much pain, and then seeing you carry on alone. I couldn't cope with it. I hadn't foreseen this. Not a confession, not an exposure of vulnerability. The money, he continued, was never truly about the money. It was about power, about deceiving myself into thinking I could mend things after failing to heal Dad. You couldn't mend your father's heart condition, I murmured softly. I understand that, intellectually. Derek rubbed his face, but I couldn't save him, and then I couldn't save my business, and then I couldn't save my job. Instead of confronting any of it truthfully, I lashed out at you, accused you for not coming to my aid once more. His honesty left me astonished. In this form, I hadn't observed such a side of Derek since his youth when personal achievements and appearances were less significant. He went on, "Your collapse reminded me of Dad. All I could fathom was the possibility that you thought I harbored hatred for you. I didn't genuinely think that, but in my bleakest hours, I had questioned if resentment had obscured whatever affection lingered between us." Derek stared intently at me, his eyes clearer than they had been in years. He said, "I want to set things right. I'm not sure how, but I want to try." Before I could respond, Sophia entered the room, her face brightening upon seeing me awake. She exclaimed, "Aunt Emily!" and hastened to my side, scrutinizing the monitors while holding my hand gently. "How do you feel?" "I'm like someone hit by a truck," I admitted, "but better for seeing you." Derek stood up. "I'll leave you two alone for now. I need some coffee anyhow." Leaving, Sophia observed him depart with an indecipherable countenance. "He hadn't left the hospital since your admission, it is said. Presumably, he slept in that chair. How is James?" "His condition is stable. His family is with him now." Sophia smoothed your blanket casually, a telltale sign of anxiety. "Have you been informed about the cancer progression?" Affirmatively. Despite this, Sophia maintained some professional reserve, but it momentarily faltered. Various avenues remain, such as clinical trials or alternative treatments. I interjected delicately, "Sophia, I need you to be straightforward with me. Not as my niece, but as a nurse. What is our true prognosis here?" After a pause, she squared her shoulders in acknowledgement of my truth-seeking request. "Months, not years, may remain for him. Perhaps 3 to 6 months with aggressive treatment. Less without." I acknowledged with a nod, already suspecting as much from the doctor's cautious language. "And his quality of life would be adversely affected by the treatment," she conceded. "The side effects would be considerable." We sat in silence for a spell, each contemplating the stark reality that loomed ahead. Beyond my room, the unceasing pace of the hospital played out, echoing in the press of buttons, intercoms, and squeaky rubber-soled shoes on polished floors. I admitted at last that the structure was sound, with Margaret well versed in the specifics. She'd be tended to. "But that wasn't my concern," Sophia declared forcefully. "We require you, not merely your resources." "I understand, dear one, but pragmatism is crucial." Wiping away a tear, Sophia questioned me. "What about Derek? What of him? He appears altered since your collapse. Vanessa reports he's been discussing selling their home, opting for something smaller, reorganizing priorities." I mulled over this tidbit. Was Derek's apparent transformation genuine, or was it the transient clarity birthed by crisis? Profound but inevitably transitory. "Only time will make that clear," I replied straightforwardly. Over the ensuing days, a steady stream of visitors paid me a call in my hospital room. Rosa presented sketches from her preschoolers. Michael dropped by between lessons, always bearing fresh bouquets. Neighbors who were not well acquainted with me dropped by with magazines, homemade goodies for the medical staff, or simply spent some time in silence with me. Derek and Vanessa visited every day. Vanessa was pragmatic and supportive, coordinating with medical personnel and ensuring I was fully informed about all my choices. Derek was more reserved, frequently just sitting next to me, occasionally recounting stories from his youth or inquiring about the foundation's recipients. A week after my health incident, James Wilson left the hospital following a successful bypass surgery. He insisted on being taken into my room before departing, his complexion wan but his eyes shining with the fervor of one who had recently escaped danger. "Survivors must band together," he proclaimed, extending his hand from the wheelchair towards mine. I smiled, choosing not to contradict his belief that I too would make it through this ordeal. At times, hope held greater value than precision. Practical Margaret assisted me in updating foundation documents to align with current circumstances using my laptop. Collaboratively, we drafted letters for each recipient, clarifying the structure of the foundation ahead and expressing my personal trust in their individual paths. "You're organizing everything," Margaret noted following one such session. It wasn't a query. "Indeed," I concurred. "I desire no loose ends." "Is Derek, however, a lingering issue?" I sighed. finding it difficult to neatly resolve him. 2 weeks post-hospitalization, I was discharged with a complicated medication routine, home health care arranged, and an appointment scheduled for discussions on palliative care options. Derek and Vanessa ensured my drive home. Upon arriving at my apartment building, I noticed a gathering in the courtyard. Foundation recipients, neighbors, friends, all awaiting to greet me upon my return. A banner was strung between two trees. "Welcome back, Emily." The mosaic of flowers, balloons, and warm smiles from the community evoked emotions, making my eyes misty. I inquired of Vanessa, "Had you known about this?" To which she responded, beaming, "Sophia orchestrated it." She added, she wouldn't take no for an answer. Derek assisted me from the car, his hand firm under my elbow as we advanced toward the throng. I sensed his unease as we neared, his discomfort at being an outsider amidst this community crafted without him. "You need not stay," I whispered. "I wish to," he replied unexpectedly. "It's past due that I familiarize myself with these people who hold significant importance for you." The homecoming celebration was concise, considering my energy constraints. Sophia had lined up a rotation of helpers for the forthcoming weeks, with herself taking on most of the overnight shifts, despite my objections that her academic pursuits would be affected. "My teachers are understanding," she asserted. Later on, Derek stayed behind, assisting Vanessa in tidying up the minor chaos left by visitors. As Vanessa went to change my bedsheets, Derek commented, "You've created something exceptional here, Mom." "They're decent people," she replied. "They deserved a chance to excel." Derek nodded, gazing out of the window at the now vacant courtyard. "I've been pondering your words from earlier, about investing in individuals who show accountability, gratitude, and ambition." "Yes. At that time, I didn't want to listen. It seemed like you were saying I lacked those traits." He turned to face me. "Perhaps I did then. Perhaps I still do. Only partially. But I aspire to. Change can happen at any time, Derek, even for someone like me." His forced smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "The son who only visited when he needed money?" The rephrased text reads, "For you particularly," I remarked, feeling weary yet resolved to express what mattered most. "However, alteration isn't merely talk, Derek. It's consistent actions endured over time." "I understand. I'm wrestling with determining those actions," he replied. "You'll discover your path," I assured him, feeling conviction for the first time. After Derek and Vanessa departed, vowing to return the following day, I remained by my window as the evening enveloped the community garden. Sophia was there, caring for my neglected plot due to my hospitalization. My body seemed delicate, a transient dwelling place for a spirit already starting to sever its earthly bonds. Yet, my mind remained sharp, preoccupied with the time left and how to optimize it. I had constructed something significant with the Second Chance Foundation. I had fostered talent and dedication in individuals who might have otherwise gone unnoticed. In a modest fashion, I had instigated waves of positive transformation that would persist even after my departure. However, Derek remained an incomplete task and complex inheritance for me. Could the gap between us be closed with the time I had left? And even if a tentative reunion was plausible, could I rely on it lasting past my death, when the issue of inheritance would resurface again? As dusk turned into night, I made up my mind. The course ahead was evident, although challenging. Derek would have to prove, through actions rather than words, whether his heart change was authentic. Moreover, I would need to create one last challenge for my son to unveil his true nature. The Second Chance Foundation had changed lives. Now I had to decide if Derek merited a chance of redemption himself. The weeks following my homecoming set a fresh pace for my days. Afternoons were devoted to health concerns, medications, visits from the home nurse, and occasional therapy aimed more at comfort than recovery. Afternoons were reserved for foundation-related tasks, with Margaret and Sophia assisting me in wrapping up details for its future operation. Evenings were dedicated to guests. Rosa shared her preschool developments, Michael regaled us with stories from his internship, while James discussed his recuperation advancements. Derek and Vanessa dropped by 3 times a week, often bringing dinner, and occasionally staying for movies or simply keeping me company. Derek's actions continued to astonish me. He posed insightful questions about the foundation, proposed ideas for its longevity, and even had private meetings with some of the grant recipients to grasp their ambitions and hurdles. Whether his transformation was authentic or a complex act remained uncertain, but I chose to regard it sincerely. Time for doubt and animosity had elapsed. One autumnal evening, Howard Levinson visited my apartment. Derek and Vanessa were present at dinner, providing an unforeseen chance for the discussion I had prepared. After exchanging pleasantries, Howard turned to me for guidance. I have made some choices regarding my estate, and Howard is here so you can all hear them together, I clarified, observing Derek closely. Derek displayed noticeable tension but remained silent. Vanessa reached for Derek's hand, a gesture that may have been supportive or restraining, or possibly both. As you are aware, I continued, the majority of my resources are dedicated to the Second Chance Foundation, which will remain unchanged. Derek gave a stiff nod, maintaining an even expression. Nevertheless, I added, I have included a provision for family participation in the future of the foundation. Howard took out several documents from his briefcase. Mrs. Harrington has set up a position on the foundation's advisory board for a family representative. This role comes with both duties and advantages. I assumed the explanatory role. The family representative will assess potential future candidates, guide current beneficiaries, and maintain the foundation's mission integrity. In return, they'll receive a recurring payment similar to a typical inheritance, distributed incrementally instead of in one large amount. Derek appeared perplexed. Is this position intended for me? I replied, if you choose to accept it. However, it demands dedication, monthly attendance, frequent follow-ups with beneficiaries, active participation rather than mere document signatures. Howard added, the position is provisional during the first year. If certain participation conditions are met, it becomes permanent afterwards. Derek contemplated in silence for a while, considering our offer, not an ordinary inheritance, but a role, responsibility, and a link to something greater than himself. Eventually, he asked, what if I decline this offer? I suggested the position will be offered to Sophia as my nearest relative next, I said. The allowance would also go to her. Following another prolonged pause, Vanessa scrutinized her husband closely, her face conveying support without pressure. I'd prefer to mull it over, Derek eventually responded. Is that all right? Absolutely, I confirmed. Howard has readied all the necessary documents for review. Take your time. After Howard departed, Derek remained silent during dinner, answering queries only when prompted and evidently engrossed in thought. As they were about to leave, he lingered while Vanessa collected their belongings. This isn't what I anticipated, he admitted. I realize. You're giving me a job, not an inheritance. I'm giving you the opportunity, I clarified. An opportunity to be part of something significant, to shape it, to reap its benefits in a sustainable manner, rather than depleting it all at once. Derek regarded me with renewed comprehension. That's what I meant about investing in people rather than merely providing them with money. Yes, money on its own seldom resolves underlying problems. But when combined with mentorship, accountability, and genuine connection, it can be transformative. You believe I require transformation, he said, neither accusingly nor rashly. I believe we all do in our unique ways. I softly touched his arm. In the last few months, I have undergone more transformation than in the past decade. It's never too late, Derek. After they departed, Sophia joined me as she usually did each evening. She listened attentively as I described the plan for Derek. Do you think he'll accept it? She inquired when I finished. I don't know, I confessed. It demands a lot from him. Not only time and effort, but also a fundamental change in his self-perception in relation to others. And if he doesn't accept, will it come back to me? She seemed troubled by the possibility. It would be yours only if you choose to take it. There's no obligation. Sophia fell silent for a moment. She admitted, I wish to take it, not because she shuns responsibility, but because it signified a shift within him, a change she longed for, a tranquility he'd found before her demise. Before I breathe my last, I replied plainly. You're allowed to say it, Sophia. I've come to terms with what lies ahead. She murmured, tears brimming in her eyes. I haven't. I gripped her hand tightly. I understand, love, but you will. In the interim, we still have today. 2 days hence, Derek contacted asking if he could visit alone to discuss the foundation proposal. Upon his arrival, he was more formally attired than customary, as if for a job interview. I've contemplated your proposition, he commenced, once settled on the sofa opposite me. I harbored doubts about my suitability. Those beneficiaries of yours, they perform significant tasks, making substantial contributions. I engage in real estate and own a vehicle costlier than most earn annually. His self-perception caught me off guard. The role doesn't necessitate proficiency in specific fields. Rather, it demands alignment with the foundation's core values. Derek admitted, leaning forward, I'm uncertain if I've shown those values. Responsibility, gratitude, ambition towards purpose. I pointed out, you're exhibiting self-awareness at this moment. That's a step in the right direction. Derek mustered a small smile. Perhaps. But I have concerns about the logistics. For the following hour, let's delve into specifics, time obligations, duties, expectations. During the discussion, Derek jotted down notes, asked insightful follow-up questions, and showed genuine curiosity about how the foundation had chosen its previous selections. I noted when he finished his notebook, "It appears you've given this considerable thought." Derek looked me straight in the eye. "I believe I want to be a part of this, Mom. Not for the allowance, although I won't deny it wouldn't help, but that's not the main reason." For the first occasion in years, a glimmer of genuine pride washed over me concerning my son. Not due to his achievements or social standing, but because of his potential for development, even though it was belated. "The foundation is scheduling a meeting next Thursday," I shared. "Would you prefer to attend as an observer before making your decision?" He agreed and expressed gratitude. As Derek stood up to depart, he hesitated, then leaned down to plant a kiss on my cheek, a gesture that echoed the loving boy he once was, causing me to momentarily halt breathing. "I'm making efforts, Mom," he murmured quietly. "I truly am." I acknowledged his effort. That's all any of us can do. The following Thursday, the foundation meeting took place in my apartment because of my deteriorating mobility. Margaret orchestrated things as she usually does, with Sophia meticulously recording the minutes. Derek sat off to one side, attentively listening as current grant recipients shared their advancements and upcoming projects were under consideration. A year later, Derek Harrington positioned himself near the edge of the assembly, observing as people flooded into the newly constructed Emily Harrington Community Center. The winter light filtered through the banks of windows, casting a glow on the images that lined the entrance hall, depicting foundation recipients from days gone by and his mother's portrait among them. In some ways, he felt like an outsider in this community his mother had cultivated. It had been a year since her passing, yet he occasionally sensed worried gazes from the original foundation members as if they expected him to slip back into the entitled, demanding son that Emily had ultimately defied. "Mingle," Vanessa suggested, appearing next to him with 2 glasses of punch. Derek accepted the blow, yet hesitated to approach the gathering. "I'm not certain I fit in here," he admitted. "Not truly," Vanessa countered. "You are the family representative on the board. You definitely have a place here." In the time since his mother's passing, Derek had honored his vow by taking his role with the foundation seriously. He attended every meeting, guided 3 new recipients, and helped institute a small business incubator program offering both funding and practical business education to local innovators. The regular allowance from the foundation enabled him and Vanessa to move into a smaller home without financial hardship. The work itself provided him with a sense of purpose he'd never found in pursuing the next significant deal or gaining approval from influential figures. Nonetheless, uncertainty lingered. Had his change occurred too late for his mother to fully believe in it? Did the letter Sophia handed him following the funeral, containing a message of hope and pride, hold truth? Or was it Emily's attempt to guide him towards improvement, irrespective of her real feelings? Across the room, Sophia beckoned for him. By her side stood a tall young man, Jason, the paramedic who received funding to become a physician assistant, an unprecedented decision following his mother's death. "Derek," Sophia introduced as he moved closer. "Don't you remember Jason? He had just concluded his first semester with a perfect 4.0 GPA. "Congratulations," Derek said, extending a handshake. "That's quite remarkable given your part-time job." To which Jason responded humbly, "I couldn't have achieved it without the foundation. The financial support has been significant. But honestly, the mentoring sessions have proved even more beneficial." This reminded Derek of his regular bi-weekly meetings with recipients, focusing on business paths. "My mother believed strongly that money wasn't everything. Connections were equally important." Reflecting this sentiment, Sophia mentioned the board was considering enhancing the mentorship program. They aim to pair recipients not just with advisors from the foundation, but with professionals within their fields as well. Derek found the idea appealing and suggested he might know some potential participants. As they delved deeper into the topic, Derek received a gentle tap on his shoulder. Turning around, he noticed Rose's daughter, Lucia, handing him a homemade card. "For you, Mr. Harrington," the young girl said sincerely. It was revealed that her mother had helped her write it. Taken aback, Derek stooped down to meet Lucia at eye level and accepted the colorful piece of construction paper, adorned with glitter and childish handwriting. "Thank you, Lucia," he replied. The 6-year-old then clarified, "I'm saying thank you for helping build the new playground at Mama's school. The one with your mother's name on it. Touched by her gratitude, Derek responded, "You're most welcome." The playground was his inaugural independent undertaking for the foundation, an advantageous enhancement to Rose's preschool, benefiting both her pupils and the local community. Upon Lucia departing, Derek unveiled a card revealing delightful images of children at play, accompanied by, "Thank you, Mr. Derek," penned meticulously. Something within him contracted upon seeing this. "Are you all right?" Sophia inquired, sensing his mood. "Yes," he replied, taken aback to find himself responding truthfully. "I'm merely reminiscing about Mom. She would have cherished this." "She does appreciate it," Sophia stated straightforwardly, carrying on her legacy through all of us. The formal dedication followed swiftly, with Margaret summoning everyone to order at the front of the room. In her capacity as the Foundation's administrator, she had guided the community center project from conception to realization. Exactly a year ago today, she commenced, "We bid farewell to our founder, guide, and companion, Emily Harrington. Instead of merely lamenting her absence, we opted for celebrating her vision by broadening its scope." Derek heard as Margaret summarized the Foundation's achievements during the past year: 4 scholarship recipients, the commencement of a business incubator program, and now, the unveiling of a community center offering space for gatherings, classrooms, and resources for the local populace. And with this, Margaret proposed, "I'd like to invite Emily's son, Derek Harrington, to share some thoughts and formally inaugurate the center." Caught off guard, Derek hesitated. With a reassuring nudge, Vanessa encouraged, "Take the stage. You're capable," she added. As he advanced toward the front, Derek spotted several familiar faces. Michael Abernathy, on track to graduate with honors in engineering; James Wilson, fully recovered and broadening his robotics program across 3 additional schools; Rosa Martinez, whose preschool now had a 2-year-long waiting list. A year ago, these individuals were strangers to him, mere names casually mentioned by his mother. Now they stood as colleagues, collaborators, and friends in a peculiar sense. At the podium, Derek took a deep breath, gazing out at the assembled crowd. How could he possibly express gratitude fittingly? "Thank you all for attending today," he started hesitantly. "Many of you know, my bond with my mother was intricate. For far too long, I perceived her as a resource rather than a person harboring her own aspirations and intentions." The room fell silent, no one anticipating this candid disclosure. When she declined to provide me the money I requested and instead established this foundation, I felt aggrieved, bitter. I believed she was inflicting a punishment. Derek paused, regaining his composure. What I failed to grasp then was that she was in fact bestowing upon me something far more precious than currency: purpose, community, legacy. He pointed toward the photos adorning the wall. Every individual depicted here has a narrative of change, of seizing a second opportunity and constructing something significant. My mother held faith in such narratives. Remarkably, she believed I could create a similar story for myself, even after years of setbacks. Derek pulled a letter from his pocket that his mother had penned, now faded from multiple readings. Before her demise, my mother wrote me a letter. Within it, she expressed something I strive to recall daily. Second chances aren't exclusive to grant recipients. They are meant for all who are willing to transcend their boundaries. His voice quivered and he paused briefly to regain his composure. This community center serves as a monument to my mother's foresight, but also as an offer to us all. An offer to see beyond our momentary desires. An invitation to invest in one another's capabilities. An offer to create something that surpasses our lifetimes. Derek carefully put away the letter and placed it back in his pocket. Throughout her lifetime, I failed to seize numerous chances to make my mom proud. However, this opportunity to uphold her legacy through her work is something I am grateful for. Thank you for letting me contribute to this endeavor. As he walked off the podium, the applause was sincere, yet somewhat taken aback. Margaret patted his arm and said Emily would have been proud before resuming her speech to the crowd. And so, it's my privilege to formally inaugurate the Emily Harrington Community Center. As the red ribbon was cut and people started exploring the new establishment, Derek stood alone once more, experiencing a familiar blend of sorrow and determination that had developed over the past year. A figure near the entrance caught his eye. An unfamiliar old woman seemed to be deeply examining my mother's portrait. Her stance indicated something beyond casual curiosity. Intrigued, Derek approached her cautiously. "Did you recognize my mother at the ceremony?" The woman looked at me, her eyes shining despite her age. "Indeed, I recall her well. We used to work together at the accounting firm before she retired. I happened to be in town and saw the notice about the event in the local newspaper." "I'm delighted you made it," Derek explained. "I'm her son, Derek." "Ah, Derek, the woman responded with a subtle change in expression. Emily frequently spoke of you. Upon hearing this, Derek braced himself for the polite yet disapproving tone he was accustomed to when his relationship with his mother came up. However, instead, she smiled warmly. She believed you possessed immense potential, and that beneath it all, you shared her determination and your father's compassion. And she proved accurate, given all that you have accomplished here. That's not my recollection, Derek conceded. We had our disagreements. Naturally, the woman said pragmatically, that's what families do. But Emily had a keen eye for people. That's what made her such an effective accountant. She saw opportunities, whereas others perceived only financial statements. As the woman delved deeper into the community center, Derek stayed by his mother's side, scrutinizing the characteristics immortalized by the photographer during her last days. Her resolute jawline, the compassion in her gaze, the cryptic smile hinting at secrets yet to be unveiled. Mr. Harrington, a voice disrupted his contemplations. It was Jason, the medical assistant student, standing close by with an apprehensive expression. You can call me Derek. Understood, Derek. Jason gathered his thoughts. He sought advice on the business incubator model that Derek had crafted for the foundation. Jason believed a comparable system could aid healthcare professionals serving underprivileged communities. Would Derek be open to assisting him in creating a proposal? I'd be delighted, Derek replied, recognizing the familiar pang of enthusiasm. Let's arrange a time for a thorough discussion. As Jason departed, visibly content, Sophia walked over with an understanding smile. It appears your schedule is becoming quite busy with another project. Derek replied, I have space for one more. The thought of his mother helping him was present. Yes, she would have. Pausing, Sophia continued, the first anniversary of her passing seems like a fitting time to share something with you. What's that? She took great pride in you at the end, Derek was told. Not just hopeful, but genuinely proud. She confided this to me the night before she passed away. Derek felt his throat constrict. Is that true? Is that true? She shared with me that observing your work with the foundation offered her comfort in leaving. She knew her efforts would endure. They stood in silence for a while, gazing at Emily's portrait. I have regrets, Derek acknowledged. Things I should have said differently. We all do, Sophia consoled softly. But Aunt Emily didn't believe in dwelling on regrets. She believed in fresh starts. During the course of the afternoon, Derek engaged in talks across the community center, deliberating on expansion ideas with Margaret, assisting Rosa to clarify the preschool scholarship scheme to prospective parents, and listening as Michael shared details about his senior engineering project. For the first instance, he no longer felt like a stranger in his mother's sphere. Instead, he discovered his role within it. Not as the privileged son seeking resources, but as a participant aiding to broaden her perspective. Once the gathering concluded and the last visitors left, Derek remained in the spacious hall, now serene, save for the cleaning staff. Vanessa had departed earlier to cook dinner for certain Foundation board members at their residence, a shift from their previous lifestyle of dining at restaurants or catered events. Under the waning afternoon glow, Derek paused before the wall of images one more time. His eyes scanned the attendees, each face a tale of change, of latent abilities cultivated. Lastly, his sight fell upon his mother's portrait, centralized in the exhibit. The photographer had encapsulated something fundamental about her, a silent power, an intentional grace, a belief that her creation held significance. I comprehend now, Mom, he whispered to the vacant room. Better late than never, isn't it? He felt her reply, pragmatic, devoid of sentimentality, yet profoundly compassionate. Yes. Now, what will you do with that realization? Derek smiled, feeling his mother's letter in his pocket. The solution was everywhere, evident in the community center named after her, in lives being reshaped by her concept, in the purpose he had found not in wealth, but in giving back. As he prepared to depart, Derek spotted Lucia's thank you card, forgotten during the event. He placed it there, next to his mother's letter. Two realities that embodied what truly mattered. Appreciation gained and understanding achieved. Snowflakes delicately blanketed the fresh Emily Harrington Community Center sign outside. Derek halted to glance back at the structure, sturdy, inviting, brimming with potential. His mother had utilized the money he'd requested for a different purpose, one that was meaningful. Thus, she bestowed upon him the most priceless legacy, the opportunity to embody her legacy. As Derek continued his journey amidst the falling snow, he knew without doubt that although he would always bear regrets about their past, He had finally uncovered the path his mother had wished for him. Not as an heir of her fortune, but as a guardian of her vision. The Second Chance Foundation persists, influencing more lives, crafting more possibilities, forging more connections between resources and aspirations. In this ongoing journey, Emily Harrington's impact endures, manifested in every student educated, every business launched, every life changed. Derek experienced a loss of his mother but discovered a purpose. This wasn't the reunion they had once envisioned, yet it served as, in its own way, the most significant legacy she could bestow upon him. If you appreciated The Inheritor's Shadow, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more impactful tales of justice, redemption, and transformation. Remember to like, share, and enable notifications so you never miss the daily updates of stories that will stir your emotions and inspire your soul. Your support enables us to continue telling these meaningful narratives.